Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old Fourth Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Well, how was your weekend? Yeah, same here. Actually, very busy, very hot, stifling hot, my God. And also, if you are like me and you are left of center, maybe a bewildering, confusing, not knowing where we're going sort of mindset weekend. I get it. And we will totally dive into the Joe Biden post-debate dialogue, what I think the Democratic Party is doing that is doing damage to their own brand. And but the first thing I want to get into is a story that I think is hyper-local, but also a bit of a clarion call, a warning sign to anyone else in the African-American community who may find themselves susceptible to being used by someone who is trying to court their vote. This from WANF-TV, reporting from the local barbershop owner in Buckhead who let his barbershop be used for a small black business owner forum that turned into a pre-debate Donald Trump staged event. Surprise, surprise. Here's that story.
Black business owner says he feels betrayed and blindsided. The Trump campaign held an event at Rocky's Barbershop in Atlanta the day before the debate. But the owner says it's not what he thought he was signing up for. Atlanta News First Rachel Aragon live at 5 outside the Buckhead Barbershop with why the owner is now speaking out.
The business owner says he was never told this was going to be a political event, and now he's using his time and story to tell other businesses to watch out as election season heats up. For more than a decade,
I really take pride in my business.
Rocky Jones says he has welcomed everyone to his Atlanta barbershop, customers from all backgrounds and walks of life.
Mind my business, serve, give back haircuts to the community, and have good conversations. It's never been about politics.
His business, he says, has never been the site of a political event until Wednesday, when prominent Republicans packed inside the day before the highly anticipated presidential debate in Atlanta.
I hope I'm being well represented.
Former President Donald Trump even calling in at one point.
I feel like I've been betrayed.
Days before the debate, Jones says someone who he thought was a friend reached out to him about being the host site for a small black business roundtable. He says there was never any mention this was a political event. Jones adds he never heard from a Trump campaign representative either. I asked him if the timing of the event raised any flags this would be political.
I honestly didn't think about it. It was just, once you say black small business, give back to the community, it's like, okay, I'm doing it.
Jones says he feels used.
Just be aware that it is election season and the timing seems a little suspect.
That's why he's warning other business owners to have a healthy dose of skepticism.
Even though I trusted that person, I didn't really do the research I should have done, but now I'm letting everybody else know that you need to be aware of these calls.
Atlanta News First did make contact with the Trump campaign. They acknowledged our request, but they were not able to get us a response by airtime. And the owner did tell me he was compensated for the 2 hours he had to close Wednesday for that event, but now he says he's willing to give that money back. Reporting in Atlanta, Rachel Aragon, Atlanta News First.
Also reporting on this story from the Atlanta Voice, friend of the show, editor-in-chief Donnell Suggs, who filed this story yesterday. The owner of Rocky's Barbershop, a small black-owned business located on Piedmont Road in Buckhead, is confused. Rocky Jones allowed his small barbershop to be the site of a small business roundtable discussion hosted by a pair of Republican congressmen, Byron Donalds of Florida and Wesley Hunt of Texas, along with Dr. Ben Carson, the former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under Donald Trump. And somehow Jones, Donnell Suggs writes, has gone on record to say he didn't know it was a Trump surrogate-led event. He didn't know it would be a political event in nature. Donnell Suggs writes, yeah, right, dude. Story continues, Donnell writing here, I was there that day, and so were 30-plus other members of the media. I'm not sure that we all would have been crammed inside and gathered outside the barbershop on a hot Wednesday afternoon if it was just, quote, locker room talk taking place, that term. I was invited by a member of the Trump campaign communications team, Donnell writes. As a member of the media, I jumped at the chance to cover a black small business owner who actually openly supported the Trump re-election campaign. Only Jones must have been confused about what was taking place. Suggs continuing, days after the roundtable took place, which was a day before the first presidential debate between President Joseph R. Biden and former President Donald J. Trump took place in Midtown, Jones went on a mini media tour to explain his inclusion in the event. He didn't realize hosting the event would end in a backlash from customers. He didn't understand that having, quote, blacks for Trump and, quote, never surrender signs in his barbershop were going to be seen as support for the Trump campaign. I'm ready to go on record as saying he didn't realize Trump lost Georgia by a little over 12,000 votes last election, and some of those people that voted against Trump and for Biden were customers at his barbershop. Donnell continues, don't cry for Jones, though. He was financially compensated for the time his barbershop was closed to customers. There were a number of times I saw him leave the barbershop before the event started, and each time he saw more and more media outside, even once saying to me, quote, the Atlanta voice, huh? While looking at the logo on my work-issued polo shirt. Jones is no fool, Donnell Suggs writes. You can't run a successful business in Atlanta and be clueless to your surroundings. He knew what was going on and now seems to be regretting ever getting involved. He chose a side, even just for a couple of hours, and apparently chose wrong, at least when it comes to his business cutting black men's hair. In the black community, barbershops are safe spaces where we can talk about any and everything going on in the world. On Wednesday, Jones set his business up, signs and all, to be a safe space for Trump surrogates and support. As an American, he had the right to do so. The backlash and dazed and confused aftermath that he is now experiencing is on him now. Trump has moved on. I'll include that as well as the story from WANF-TV in today's show notes at ronshowatl.com. And then in the debate, there was the black jobs gaffe.
The fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people.
Never mind the fact that it's not 18, 19, or 20 million people. What's up with the black jobs gaffe? A lot of quick and swift backlash along social media over the weekend over the thought of black jobs being somehow specific for black people. One of them is a digital creator, Rayshonda Leas Lockhart. She is a comedian. Actually, I don't know that she is, but she's pretty funny in this.
It's an announcement of black jobs being taken. Here's a list of jobs for the blacks. Job opening number 1 is stove light supervisor. This person is in charge of making sure that the stove light is on and if the bulbs need changing. This tradition is for us because it allows our ancestors to find and season our food in the middle of the night. Which brings us right on to job number 2. You need at least 15 years of training for a cast iron skillet trainer. This person is going to make sure that the cast iron skillet is passed down to the family member that knows how to cook, but also knows how to properly clean it. We will not be giving this to just anyone.
Right.
Now, number 3 is very important. The spades project manager. Not only are they in charge of taking the tools out of the deck, they're also in charge of scoring and making sure nobody trains anyone on how to play spades, but the people that sit down know how to play. And where would we be without number 4? Number 4 is the t-shirt order director. This person is in charge of making sure all the t-shirts are ready for family reunion. Right. All the t-shirts are ready for the homegoing. All the airbrushing is done. All the lettering is correct. And everybody has their $35 to $40 in on time. I see you, Tony. Now, the Kool-Aid coordinator is right up there with the macaroni and cheese master. We need 5 references. Do not play. And the homecoming shift lead will make sure we're liquored up and at every event leading up to homecoming.
Y'all, I've been to enough of these gatherings where I can tell you the spades table, if you don't come in with thick skin, if you're not ready to be ruthless, don't even go to that table. I was invited to a Christmas party a couple of Christmases ago. Miss Valerie, actually. I need to reach out to Miss Valerie. She and I... I believe it was during was it the 2020 cycle? It may have been 2022. It may have been 2022 now that I think about it. We were there waiting to listen to John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. I believe President Obama had come in to speak on their behalf. It had to be the 2020 cycle, I guess, right? So we met then at the College Park arena. Anyway, we've stayed in touch ever since then. She invited me to her Christmas gathering with her friends and family, and they invited me to play dominoes with them. And I was like, okay, cool. Naive, very naive of me to do that because I'm quick when it comes to simple math. Dominoes is a lot about simple math. And I cleaned up the table. And I think they were very gracious and magnanimous in congratulating me, but I sensed it. Now, I may be inferring just a little bit here, but I can tell you that Christmas party happened, I want to say Christmas of 2022, and maybe I'll be invited to the one in 2024, but if she had one in 2023, I somehow knew nothing about it. You just... ruthless, man. You got to be ruthless. Actually, I'm almost certain it was an oversight because, like I said, Miss Valerie and I, we've talked since then. And anyway, I'm totally getting off the point here. Yeah, so I think one of the things that we seem to gloss over in the aftermath of the debate was, again, the things that Donald Trump said. And this is partially what frustrates me the most about President Biden's performance at that debate. Donald Trump put a lot of fruit on the vine. There was a lot to pluck from there. And President Biden just was not in a state of mind or mental fit, whatever you want to call it, to take full advantage of all of the lies and all of the quips like the black jobs or the absurdity of pulling babies out of a woman's womb and then killing the baby. I mean, just absolute insanity, the amount of lies and nonsense spewed. And again, unfortunately, the focus is more on Joe Biden's performance in that debate. And listen, part of that's on us, those of us on the left who were concerned about his performance as well. And I mean, I get that, but we're in this weird, awkward spot where we have to, in my opinion, not act like we didn't see what we saw, what the American people saw, but also point out a lot of what the American people should have seen as well. Yeah, I think there's a little untold story here about whatever erosion of African-American support there may have been for President Biden going towards Donald Trump. But I think Donald's antics and the setup last week may actually be evidence of the African-American voting bloc sort of dialing in and being engaged, whereas in the past we may have had a lot of folks, and there's been that sentiment for not just the black vote, but for all voters. It's not really being dialed in to this cycle until they have to be. Well, I kind of get a sense that, at least for the African-American vote, they may be leading the way here and awakening to this new reality that, wait a minute, there's a lot on the line here. And that's the guy running against the guy that's already in office, and that's the way that guy's talking? Oh, hell no. I'm paraphrasing, completely paraphrasing. We do have a lot more to cover. Some reaction from over the weekend. Of course, the Sunday talk shows were abuzz with the president's performance and what the Democratic Party is going to do. And of course, the Democratic Party trots out, at least on two of the shows that I saw yesterday, checks my notes, 83-year-old Jim Clyburn to speak on behalf of President Biden's mental fitness. Brilliant. Anyway, more on that when The Ron Show returns here on America One Radio. You can follow The Ron Show on your preferred social media platforms. That would be at Ron Show ATL. If you want to go back and check like the fact checking, I was working my fingers to the bone fact checking that debate Thursday night at Ron Show ATL. We did that on Threads. We did that on the Twitter X platform. We did that on Facebook. Not really easy to fact check on Instagram, but I'm there too at Ron Show ATL. Donnell Suggs from the Atlanta Voice is here, the editor-in-chief. We were just reading over your op-ed. I assume that's an op-ed in the Atlanta Voice. You were giving us the lay of the land when it comes to the Rocky's barbershop story. Rocky is acting like, I had no idea this was going to be a Trump event. I get the sense you don't believe that he is telling the truth or being forthright, or was he not able to connect the dots? What's the story?
Ron, first of all, good morning. Thanks for having me on. I love your show.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Donnell. Same here.
I was there hours before Byron Donalds Ben Carson, anyone showed up. Only thing there was a camera crew.
Yeah.
There were people with Trump lanyards on saying Trump campaign 2024. They were putting signs up. There was more. There was like 40 members of the media. I talked to a reporter from Spain. I talked to another one, Camilla Long, who's very good, a columnist from the London Times. It's political, dude. This is a barbershop on a Wednesday. No one will be sitting outside with cameras.
Right.
There's signs up in your barbershop that said Trump 2024, blacks for Trump, never surrender. These are signage that's put up on your wall. Did you not look when the person was putting the signs up? Come on, just say, hey guys, I effed up. I took a stand. I got paid. I took 40 pieces of silver, and then I regret it. But the whole I didn't know it was political almost plays on not even black people, human beings' intelligence.
Yeah,
dude, come on,
man.
man.
And that's the thing that kind of kills me about the Trump coddling or the sales pitch that they're making to African American voters. A lot of it is, in my mind, and I'm not black, a lot of it is insulting to someone's intelligence that they're trying to, make this sales pitch to. It's oogie. It reminds me of 2016 when Hillary Clinton was the presidential nominee or running for president on the DNC ticket, or was trying to win the Democratic nomination. And she was selling all of these LGBTQ plus T-shirts and paraphernalia. And I, as a gay man, remember when she was not in support of marriage equality. It was insulting to my intelligence.
I am black, as you know.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm telling you, it is insulting to me as a college-educated professional journalist, but I consider a worldly man, someone that's been around for a little bit. It's ridiculous. Don't play me like that. Just say, hey, bro, I took the money. I shouldn't have taken it. I didn't realize that my customer base and other people would have a backlash of this extent. I effed up. Damn, my bad. And I will respect that.
Yeah. And do you think that's what he's dealing with? He's just dealing with a swift, loud backlash that he's now regretting this decision and is trying to play it off like, oh, I was fooled?
That was my feeling. I watched both videos. He did an interview with 11 Alive. He did an interview with Atlanta News First.
Yeah.
Those are the only ones that were going to take him seriously and take his call, because he didn't call us, but I wouldn't have taken it anyway. I would have said, guy, I was there, man. I saw you. He was smiling. I have pictures of you smiling, chucking it up, laughing with Byron Donalds, laughing with Ben Carson. Do you understand these men didn't need a haircut? They didn't come for a haircut. So he closed his shop for hours. He closed his shop for 4 to 5 hours.
Wow.
That's money. That's money that wasn't made. So you understood, well, in the meantime, what you going to pay me so that way I can keep my business open? So no one's dumb. Just say, hey, I took the money. He's getting backlash, and he didn't realize he would get it because I'm just a barbershop. What's the big deal? Because we talk about that stuff, man. Yeah. I'm in the barbershop. We talk about the Trump stuff. We talk about women. We talk about cars. We talk about sports. And it's all talk. But we talk about it. Now, the difference is 40 different media entities, including the one black paper in Atlanta, all were there, and we saw you, so we wrote about it, and you are the star of the show almost, except for when Trump called in via speakerphone. When Trump called in via speakerphone, did that not click in your head?
Well, it wasn't going to shut it down then. That would have been too awkward. But I mean, there does seem there's all this astroturfing going on with the Trump campaign. We've got the Trump surrogate showing up at Chick-fil-A with her friends, and lo and behold, we didn't know she was a Trump surrogate, but she's a Trump surrogate.
Oh, we didn't know. Everyone else is looking at, where did that girl come from? She doesn't even work here. She's here today. And I was like, come on, man, stop it. So everyone's killing me with that.
It seems to me like, I was just mentioning this in my last segment, it feels as if we see this delayed engagement for the American voter. And the debate may have done some damage to Joe Biden's brand all along. But it feels like now that this astroturfing, the black jobs quip, like I feel like the African American voter has tuned in early. Like y'all are going to be ahead of the game when it comes to realizing what's on the line this election.
If you don't mind me saying, finally, getting this thing long before October and September. He's directly insulting us, the black voter. He's directly insulting us, and half the time we used to all ignore that because it was like, oh well, he's just crazy like that. But now I want everyone that's black or Hispanic, they should really get on board and realize this is a joke. This guy is against immigration of any type of form. So I don't know how you could support him and think that he's not speaking about you. That was us. That was me with black voters. Like, what do you mean he's not speaking about you? When he says the black jobs, he means menial things that won't make you any generational wealth.
Yes.
And that won't make you no money at all. those are the jobs you guys are losing to these immigrants.
Mm.
And you're like, who? I'm the editor-in-chief of a newspaper. Is that a black job? Because I have it. I have the job. So is that a black job? I don't know who he's speaking to. We should take that personal.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us weren't. And then Rocky thought maybe it wasn't him we were talking about. And he started to realize, oh shit, my customer base is taking that personal.
Yeah, no, it seems it seems that is the case. So I've got this awkward spot where I've got about 40 seconds before I have to hit a hard break, but I want to continue on this because I don't think that's the only. First of all, the barbershop trope, we talked about that before. It was such a setup. Instead of coming to the Atlanta Voice, which I think would have been a great, sitting in the newsroom and having this conversation would have been a better.
There's an open invitation to them. There's an open. I already talked to some of these people. There's an open invitation. You want to talk to black people? We don't have to talk in a barbershop. We can go somewhere else.
Yeah, so I want to ask you a little bit more about that. Also, the reaction from the debate performance as well. I'm going to take a quick break. Come back. Donnell Suggs, editor-in-chief of the Atlanta Voice. You're listening to The Ron Show on the American One Radio app, AmericanRadio.com, wherever you podcast.
Broadcasting 5 days a week to make common sense common again. This is The Ron Show on America One Radio.
Continuing this conversation with editor-in-chief Donnell Suggs of the Atlanta Voice, we're talking a little bit about the astroturfing of the black vote by the Trump campaign, and so much of the oxygen in the room after the debate has been about Joe Biden's performance, but Donnell and I were just talking off the air, and you said you're a 46-year-old man, and that was a really long day going around with President Biden that day, and it pretty much wore you out as well. But also, I don't think a lot of people knew this, but the president's flight came in around 2 o'clock, I want to say, at Dobbins Air Force Base.
1:30. Yes, sir.
Okay. So he landed at 1:30. The former president flew into Hartsfield-Jackson International, I think around 5:30 or so, and then he didn't even get to the venue until an hour before the event started. So, and obviously you can tell by the multitude of lies that he told that he didn't really prepare much for this debate at all, whereas there could be the assumption that Joe Biden may have over-prepared for it and was a little over-informed when it came to all the things he needed to remember. But I want to get back to the astroturfing because at this barbershop, this setup event, you could hear the former president on speakerphone talking to Byron Donalds and to Ben Carson, Dr. Carson, about the mugshot. I want you to touch on the mugshot and how insulting that is, because Donald Trump has been running around, and his surrogates have been doing this as well, talking about how the mugshot makes him more credible or more relatable to the African-American voter.
If you are an adult, I'm going to give. I don't even consider 21. I have a 19-year-old stepdaughter. She's an adult by law. I think she's still my kid. Mm-hmm. If you're an adult and you heard that 30 seconds they spent on the black vote, maybe a minute, and you weren't insulted by that directly, I question your intelligence, and I really question whether or not you should even be allowed to vote. It's unbelievable, some of the things he's saying, and yet there's still some people who support it. It's just unbelievable. I can't imagine how anyone saw that debate and felt like he was speaking to black voters at all, and yet even if he was speaking to black voters with some type of respect. Neither one of the men really made a point, by the way,
right?
For the black vote or childcare or anything. I need to talk about golf. But,
the golf thing totally threw us all off the rails a little bit. We were all sitting there going, two old white men talking about their golf handicap. Could I have been less interested?
I was in a room full of journalists from all over the world. Part of the press booth. And you saw people's faces like they didn't understand what was going on. And the foreign ones looked at me, and there was someone from people from Japan, London, like I told you earlier, Spain. They looked at me like, dude, what is this? What do you guys call this? This is the thing, right? I'm like, no, I've never seen this. I've been covering this for 15 years, 10 strong, like every day.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
I've never seen it either.
Yeah. Don't make me explain this nonsense. I didn't make it.
For real. Don't because I'm the only black person here. Don't need me to explain this. I don't know. I know the topic was supposed to be black and childcare and what have you. And he said black jobs, and everyone looked at me like, what is the black job? I said, guys, I've always had a job. I don't know. I don't know.
So also from the Atlanta Voice, Isaiah Singleton was embedded at the watch party that was happening, and the one that President Joe Biden and Dr. Jill Biden attended after the fact. And you kind of get a sense that you kind of get a sense that there was a good bit of loyalty for President Joe Biden, but that also there wasn't so much attention given, I guess, to his sluggish performance in the beginning, that there was a lot of raucous support when he defended Roe v. Wade, and at the end of the rally, it seems as if the room was solidified for the president. And then, of course, he came in and gave a nice little statement after that. In fact, he looked more energized at that than he did at the debate.
Yeah, I was there too. Isaiah was embedded. We got there, like I said, the press pool after we left McCamus Pavilion. We all raced over to the hotel. So we both were there. He did seem energized. He did seem a little more engaged. I got to be honest with you. The crowd came across like a crowd of supporters is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Everything you said was awesome. Joe Biden said, Dr. Joe Biden, First Lady Joe Biden said, "Oh, you did great." He didn't do great. He didn't do great.
No.
That doesn't mean the man is not good at his job. He did not do great.
Yeah.
Surviving a car crash doesn't mean you did great. It means you survived.
Yeah, that's true.
He survived. And that's good. You don't want to die. But he didn't do great. So we shouldn't do that. So it was a 99.99% supporter-based thing.
Yeah.
You weren't even invited if you came across as anyone that might not be in support of the Biden campaign. So no one should take that support, that level of support, and say, "Look, see, the people still love him. Those are his people. Those were his people."
So I get a sense, and I was going to talk about this a little bit later in May. Like I don't want to be gaslit by Dr. Jill Biden or Joe Biden either, or Democratic surrogates. I mean, we had 83-year-old Jim Clyburn on all the talk shows yesterday, giving his spin. Don't gaslight me on this. Like we saw what we saw, we know what we know, and I don't need to be gaslit on this. The Democratic Party's got to stop trying to convince me that I didn't see what I actually know I saw, because it erodes their credibility. But let me ask you this: after the debate, there's been so much attention again on the astroturfing of the barbershop and the black job scenario. What are folks actually saying after the debate? Is there a little more concern? Is there is there more concern about President Biden's fitness to continue running, and if so, to serve 4 years again?
If I can speak for who contact me, the readers that I talk to, and that's in the black community, if I can speak for them for a moment.
Exactly.
The idea of Biden dropping out has never come up.
Wow.
That came from MSNBC, the New York Times, the AJC. That has not come up from people that message me on Twitter, message me on Instagram, or call me or email me and say, "Hey, I subscribe to the paper. You better give me an answer about this." Is that a real thing? I said, guys, just like Senator Warnock said on Meet the Press yesterday, this imaginary scenario where this could happen is not healthy. It's not even like it's good for the party. It's just not healthy. Guys, you just can't do that. You just can't say, "Well, you had a bad night. You should quit." Where in America is that? We wouldn't say that about a basketball player that didn't score. You can say Michael Jordan had a bad night, he only scored 9. Kobe had, God rest his soul, had 4 points that day. He should quit playing basketball because that night he wasn't Kobe. So he should not be Kobe anymore. It's a debate. Why? Because he's not going to age again till November. His birthday's next year. So he's not going to get older. Okay, I had a bad night. And Trump didn't have a good night, which is the crazy part about it.
Yeah.
Trump didn't have a good night.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that overlooked for sure. And the thing is, I think we're so used to Donald Trump's cognition failures that we've normalized it.
That really is it. Really is it. We just know he's going to lie. We know he's going to make up these random numbers and say he's the greatest at this, that, and the third. I've seen him golf before in person. Not like he's invited me. I'm saying at events. He's not a good golfer, so he's not the best at any club anywhere. That's just not real. That's not real. But it doesn't matter because he gets away with doing it because we just know that's who you are.
Yeah.
It's a la Robert Downey Jr. in the early 90s and late 80s. We knew he was going to get in trouble. It kind of was a thing. We kind of dealt with it. What did he do now? And we moved on. We watched his movies. Today, that would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's doing that. But back then, we kind of said, it happens. Stuff happens.
Okay, so that being said, though, I will push back a little bit because I think that this isn't just a Beltway media narrative, but I will say, like, Van Jones, CNN, Joy Reid, MSNBC, like, when you've lost them, and it appears that President Joe Biden has lost them, like, there's some weight behind this. There is some discussion, and it comes down to, his decision at this point in time if he decides he wants to continue running. But the American people are telling us by a 3-1 margin that the debate not only didn't do well, but that there's a lot of concern about his mental fitness going forward.
The next day in North Carolina, he sounded fantastic.
No, he did. He absolutely did. No, absolutely. And listen, I had a grandfather who had Alzheimer's, and he had good days and he had bad days. And I'm not saying that Joe Biden has Alzheimer's, obviously, or dementia or anything like that.
Of course not.
But I'm saying that happens. You have good days, you have bad days, and maybe
you have good days. I have
yeah,
bad
you're
days.
right. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's no argument there. I'll give you that. But so from the folks that you're talking to, your average, ordinary, everyday American who may subscribe to the Atlanta Voice or read the Atlanta Voice, you're hearing no concern.
Yes, and I think we should make. Thank you for saying that. The average, all day, every day voter is telling me, a black voter is telling me, nah, that didn't sway me at all. I'm not worried about that. That's who the campaign, Joe Biden's campaign should be worried about, not the talking heads on MSNBC who need to keep remember, CNN got 51 million people to watch that debate. They're leading the way, at least for another couple days until we get something else. MSNBC, they were not involved in it. So, of course, their post coverage is like, oh, we got to do something. He should be removed from running for president. We need to keep the ratings going. No one watched us Thursday, so we got to get back on. We got to get back on the horse. The AJC took a stand recently. I thought it was unbelievable. The editorial board to say that. Unbelievable.
Yeah, New York Times did it as well. I like
the Times did it, and I get the Times. They're national. I get it.
But the Philadelphia Inquirer also came out with an op-ed that said, for the good of the country, that Donald Trump should step down. I mean, and
I thought that was respectful.
Yeah, there's a conversation to be had, I guess, on both sides in that regard. Well, listen, I'm going to let you.
Black media is saying opposite. We're saying now there's a scoreboard in sports. And there's 4 quarters or 2 halves, depending on what sport you play. And this is still in the first half. Relax. Everybody calm down. I don't want friends like that.
Yeah.
That as soon as I do something wrong, everybody's like, we're not messing with Donnell anymore. I wouldn't want anybody like that.
Well, here we are in Atlanta, and we feel like the score's 28-3 with a quarter and a half left to go. So, if Tom Brady didn't quit, maybe we shouldn't either.
No, he didn't. Here's your perfect example.
Oh, God. I'm never going to live that down. Donnell Suggs, editor-in-chief of the Atlanta Voice. Thanks for your time on the Ron Show today, buddy.
Always a pleasure, brother. I appreciate you. See you soon.
Same here, boss. I, however, am going to politely disagree, and I can appreciate Donnell's insight. That's why I come to him, because I think he has his finger on the pulse of the African-American Atlanta citizen. I just don't know that you can say that there's no concern whatsoever. I believe that there is absolute concern. In fact, I was watching Meet the Press yesterday morning, and I didn't watch a whole lot of Sunday television, honestly, because I kind of knew what I was going to get. I knew I was going to get Lindsey Graham on the one hand, giving us the same tired crap. In fact, I was actually impressed that Lindsey Graham said that Joe Biden was an honorable man, that he disagreed with a lot and blah, 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 blah. But I also, I saw Jim Clyburn on a couple of the shows, and I'm like, I'm not watching this. I saw him on State of the Union. I saw him on Meet the Press. And again, James Clyburn is the congressman from South Carolina who essentially stepped in and put everybody in line for South Carolina to go for Joe Biden in 2020, and that set us on the fateful course that would be the Joe Biden nomination and eventual presidency. I don't think he was necessarily wrong to kind of play that kingpin role and say, well, this is the guy. This is the guy who can beat Donald Trump. He decided, almost singularly to make that decision, and it was a good decision. Now, at 83 years of age himself, I don't want to hear from Jim Clyburn, obviously, who has staked his role in history, his place in history on Joe Biden. I don't want it. It doesn't matter. I literally skip right through that. The thing that I saw on Meet the Press that actually did catch my attention, however, was this clip where they showed segments of a sit-down with Joe Biden in 2019, another in 2022, and then most recently at the debate. I see what I see. And I actually thought Joe Biden was worried about his age in 2019, and he looks vigorous and energetic, and you like now it looks like he needs eye work. Obviously, I mean, he's in his 80s, so obviously we're not going to do that. But he looks like just the Joe Biden that could run through walls, comparable to the one that we have now. It's obvious. We are seeing this before our very eyes. And I don't know if Meet the Press meant to do that, but the putting together of those clips was, for me, the I don't want to say the nail in the coffin, because it convinced me. It did. It convinced me that we're not in a situation where, if I can see that sort of a difference, I'll say, in energy and vigor from 2019 to now, to think, okay, what's going to happen in 3.5 or 4 years down the road when he is still president of the United States in his second term, if that kind of, I don't want to say decline, but that kind of change in demeanor and energy and focus is so evident from 2019 to now. A lot of conversation on a lot of these talk shows. In fact, I was watching Fareed Zakaria, who I haven't watched a whole lot recently. I was watching Fareed Zakaria, and he had a guest on that spoke to the fact that we're hand-wringing about chaos, potential chaos. There's a lot of social media. Oh, the potential chaos of a floor vote, delegate count, blah 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 blah. The Democratic convention could be y'all. That is exactly how parties used to select their nominees until the late 1960s. Not that long ago, a blip on the radar, essentially, just a blip in time comparable to, how old this country is. It wasn't that long ago that there weren't primary elections and caucuses happening to determine who was going to be the nominee of each party. So let's stop freaking out about that. Also, I believe that the person that was on Fareed's show yesterday was speaking from Britain. He's British, and talking about how the fact that, listen, our entire election cycle in Britain is 7 weeks. Personally, who among us wouldn't like that to be the case? We don't need to have 2-year election cycles if we could do this in 7 weeks. If Britain can do it in 7 weeks, the U.S. can do it in 7 weeks, right? But again, this is all up to one person, and that is President Joseph Robinette Biden. More Ron Show when we return on the America One Radio app, AmericaOneRadio.com, on demand at ProgressiveVoices.com, or wherever you podcast. All right, final few minutes of today's Ron Show, and just as soon as I get done here, I'm pre-recording this, so I'm about a half hour ahead of you. But as soon as this show ends, the Supreme Court will unleash a flurry of last-minute decisions, which will include the Trump immunity scenario we assume today. So I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about. That's the thing, too. The post-debate cycle, unfortunately, lingered for the Biden-Harris campaign and gave plenty of opportunity for folks to hand-wring, myself among them, for many days. The Trump immunity ruling, however, could really switch the news cycle, like on a dime. We're also, obviously, it's July 1st, so we're 10 days away from sentencing for the convicted felon running for the presidency. So we talked with Don L. Suggs earlier from the Atlanta Voice, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, New York Times, a few newspapers around the country, writing op-eds saying that for the good of the country, Joe Biden should drop out. The AJC literally saying, the unfortunate truth is that Biden should withdraw from the race for the good of the nation he has served so admirably for half a century. There is precedent for a president duly elected by the American people to step aside gracefully in the national interest. Weary from constant attacks from his opponents and eager to avoid the perception of American dictatorship, George Washington, with assistance from Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, drafted what stands as one of the most important documents in our nation's history. Washington, who decided not to seek a third term, never actually delivered what has come to be known as his farewell address. It was drafted in September 1796 and first published in newspapers around the country 2 months later. Never one to tell a lie, our first president, then 64 years old, acknowledged the time had come to step aside. Every day, the increasing weight of years admonishes me more and more that the shade of retirement is as necessary to me as it will be welcome, Washington wrote. The shade of retirement is now necessary for President Biden, the AJC writes. They actually even touched on something that I did earlier. President Biden's surrogates attempted to brush off the debate performance. Aides claimed he had a cold. Vice President Kamala Harris argued the leader of the free world should be evaluated on the totality of his presidency, not one night. Former President Barack Obama took to social media and said, bad debate nights happen. The AJC editorial board collectively follows. Those responses are insulting to the American people. This wasn't a bad night. It was confirmation of the worst fears of some of Biden's most ardent supporters, that after 36 years in the U.S. Senate, 8 more as vice president, and a term in the White House. Age has finally caught up to him. Again, surrogates, Democrats have to be careful about telling the American people, no, what you saw was a one-off. We saw what we saw. Again, Meet the Press, I hesitate to even share the audio because I'm not sure you pick up on the change in the audio as much as you do when you just visually see a change in Joe Biden himself. I mean, obviously, we all age. I'm 50 years old. I probably look different now than I did 5 years ago myself. But I'm pretty sure my mental acuity, maybe it has. Anyway, I'm going to give you the audio of this Meet the Press clip, and I'll share this in the show notes at ronshowatl.com as well, so that you can see for yourself what I'm talking about, this change from 2019 to 2022 to now.
President Biden, who agreed to the earliest general election debate in modern political history, had one goal: to persuade voters who are skeptical about his age and fitness for office that he is up to serve another 4 years. Mr. Biden has consistently told voters, watch me.
The first clip is from October of 2018.
If I were to run, I think they're going to judge me on my vitality. Can I still run up the steps of Air Force Two? Am I still in good shape? Do I have all my faculties? Am I energetic? I think it's totally legitimate people ask those questions.
And listen, I don't want to see Joe Biden bounding up or downstairs to get on planes anymore. I just don't. But then again, that's because I see his gait now. I know he's not going to be running up and down anything anytime soon. Maybe he likes to take a bike ride. That's fine. For someone his age, he should do that. I would advise myself at 50, don't be running up and down stairs onto an airplane. No, I don't do that now. Well, sometimes. But it's not safe. It's not smart. All right, so that was from October 2018. Here he is, November 2019.
This is for the voters to decide. Take a look. Look at me, see if I have the energy, see if I know what I'm talking about, and make their judgment.
So the first clip, October 2018. Second clip, November 2019. This is October 2022.
I think it's a legitimate thing to be concerned about anyone's age, including mine. I think that's totally legitimate. But I think the best way to make the judgment is to watch me.
America watched last Thursday. And initial polling coming out from CBS News and YouGov shows that the American public is more concerned now than ever, more concerned than they ever have been before about President Joe Biden serving the presidency at his age. Biden have mental and cognitive health to serve as president. 35% said he did. That's June 9th. 65% said he didn't. Now, it's 27% saying he does, 72% saying he does not. Now, listen, in that same polling, it's 50-50, well, 50-49. 50-49 for Trump. Only 50% of those polled think that he has the mental and cognitive health to serve as president. Same poll asking, should Biden even be running for president? 37% said he should in February of 2024. It's down to 28% now. Amongst Democrats, it was 64% in February. Should Biden be running for president? Now it's down to 54%. That's just within the Democratic Party. Scanning a little further down, why shouldn't Biden even be running for president? Number one answer, his age, 86%. 71%, decisions he might make while in office. Concern about his cognition and the decisions he'd make. 66% cite his record as president. So even if you're not concerned as Democrats about his age, 86% of those polled said that he is, you have to be concerned about 66% having already decided that even without his age, his record in office is of concern. And I get it. Democrats and Biden-Harris have work to do on that because there's a lot of misinformation out there that they're having to combat. But when you add another 20 points to that because of his age, there's no fixing that. There just isn't. And Donnell said he's not going to get any older. No, he actually is. He's actually going to be 4 months older on election day. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's Ron Show. I want to thank Donnell Suggs, the Atlanta Voice, for joining us. I'll have show notes at ronshowatl.com. We'll replay this 5 to 6 p.m. By then, we'll likely know about Trump's immunity situation. So tomorrow's show should be a doozy. Have a great one. See you tomorrow.